building wild cars in Southern California. That's what owner Chris Ashton says on Ruffian Cars' Instagram account. That's a very succinct and accurate statement, but there's a lot more depth and finesse to be found underneath the fender-flared surfaces of the cars that he has built. How does a former video game programmer build a successful company building high-end muscle cars? Let's go behind the build to find out.
The original plan was for me to build my own stuff. I built my 70 Mustang and my GT40 in my garage. It's a little two-car garage, right? So it was like the original plan was just to have a bigger space to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Once I had that bigger space, though, and I started doing the math on how long it takes me to build stuff, I was like, I need help.
Okay.
So
you need to start a business to build your own cars.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I hired on a couple people in, I think it was early 22.
Uh-huh.
We were like, okay, as a company, like what should be the first car that we build maybe to sell? And the idea was build like some turnkey cars that are really cool.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to build for a client, maybe build something super cool that people are attracted to. And at the worst, we needed to establish our own look and style and a brand. Trying to start a hot rod shop from nothing. How do you get people to trust you? How do you get people to, give you money to build their stuff, right? And what's it look like? What's the quality? Yeah. So the thought here was this car and the Galaxie would be basically us announcing our shop to the world, basically. So we built these two cars, and we knew from early on that we were going to take these to SEMA, and that was going to be the big hurrah, and reveal of the shop. And basically at that point say, okay, we're open for business. Like this is the level of quality of our work.
There is a lot going on with this car too. Cobra inspired fender flares, the wheels and stuff, and then almost like that oil cooler line in the front, and
exactly.
and the Cobras. And so, like, what were some of the things you were trying to incorporate in this?
So for some reason, I'm enamored with the American cars that went and raced in Europe. Everybody's so familiar with the cars that raced here in NASCAR and drag racing and all that kind of stuff. But in the 60s was the first time that all these cars, the Galaxies, the Mustangs, this was the first time that they were going to Europe and racing. So specifically, it's kind of the FIA style hood scoop. We did side vents in the fender, kind of similar to the Cobras, but they're shaped a little different for the car, So it's one of those things where it's like be inspired by the old stuff, the vintage stuff, but then make it our own and tweak it to sort of how we want to, So steel fender flares. I always love running wide tires up front if I can. So the thought was, what if we run rear Cobra wheels all the way around?
Yeah.
So we bolted those Cobra wheels to the front, and of course the offset is, it pokes some way out because they're made for the rear. So that's where the flares came in. We did the Shelby GT350R style spare in the back just because we didn't have rear seats, and it's especially the 67s have such a huge rear window. There was nothing in there, and it just looked kind of like unfinished or empty.
I can imagine.
Some of the NASCAR stuff, but a lot of the drag cars, the headrests are attached to the cage instead of the backs of the seats.
A little bar and a little round pad, right?
Yeah, so we did the same thing here. The headrest actually floating above the seat, and then this is removable so that you can come over the seat and the harness bar with the spare tire.
That's cool.
I like functionality. Everything needs to work. So the spare tire has to be able to come in and out, without taking the whole car apart.
It's kind of important.
If you are familiar with the 67, 68s, they always have a whole line of vents here. And aside from that, they don't really vent to the interior. They vent to this weird space in between the body shell, the interior and exterior. But they're very square, very like hard rectangular. So my thought was, let's just cut that out and just sheet metal it smooth. And that's the first thing we did. But it's one of those scenarios where you do it and then you look at it and you're like, it looked terrible because this panel is so big and empty.
Right, yeah.
And you have a lifetime of looking at 67, 68s with the thing there.
Yeah.
You know, if they weren't those vents, then they were the Shelby scoop.
Yeah, right.
But I really didn't want to run like a bolt-in Shelby like fiberglass scoop. Like again, we weren't building a Shelby Cobra. We were trying to build our own thing. So I remember posting on social media. We got a lot of negativity for it.
Sure.
But now that the car's done, we go to car shows and stuff. Most people don't even notice it.
I was just going to say that.
People that do get excited about it and they think it looks cool.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where in sheet metal, it's hard for people to imagine what the finished product is going to look like. But once we got it there, I think it's super fun. I finished the 70 Mustang and the GT40, and I was just hungry for more. Like that's all I want to do now is just build cars.
Yeah.
And so I asked my dad, I was like, what do you think I should build next? And he was like, I really like the old Galaxies. I was strictly in sort of the traditional muscle car world. So the Galaxies weren't anything that I really had paid any attention to. But then when I started searching, and of course I'm into racing, so I started looking at race Galaxies, and you see NASCAR and drag racing. But then I stumbled across Goodwood, and Holman and Moody sent 3 or 4 Galaxies to compete in the British Saloon Championship. And the very first year there, they won that series.
Yeah.
So there was like this cool road racing heritage to the Galaxie that I didn't know anything about prior to Goodwood. Once I saw that stuff at Goodwood, I was like, oh, that's definitely what I'm doing. I want to do this full-size Galaxie, but on a real race car chassis.
Yeah.
In particular, the rear suspension is still a 3-link Watt setup, but it's called decoupled 3-link. They're actually the best setup, from my understanding, best setup that you can run on a smooth course. And the reason is that upper control arm is shocks. They're two opposing shocks.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
And they in the same way that a drag car has wrinkle wall tires, the intent there is to absorb some of the shock load, and it gives you more traction. On a racetrack, rear-wheel drive, you're trying to accelerate out of a turn, you need traction. And whenever you hammer the brakes, the rear end goes light, and you need more traction. So the whole rear axle, because that upper arm is a shock, the whole rear axle can twist forwards and it can twist backwards. And you can adjust in the cabin how much compression and rebound is on those. So on a racetrack, you could adjust, like you're adjusting your brake bias, but you could also adjust the traction in the rear.
That's cool.
So it's a little bit springy. Like in first gear on the street, if you're not real smooth, it could start bucking because that whole axle's moving around. But it's meant to work at speed. It's not meant for stoplights, you know? But that's just one of the things that makes the car really fun to drive. It's one turn lock to lock. So the steering is incredibly fast, the fastest I've ever felt. So I've driven a lot of high-end like sports cars, supercars. This thing drives and goes around a corner like nothing I've ever felt before. Out of everything that I've owned or built, like this is my favorite thing to drive.
Cool. I want to get into the drivetrain in a second, but since we're back here, that's the exhaust coming out the...
It is.
Okay, those look like from a McLaren or something, the bezels that come out the back of a McLaren.
Yeah.
Was there some inspiration there? Or
there was, but it wasn't, we didn't set out to do that. What happened is we have the fuel cell in there. We have 2 oil coolers in the back. We're also trying to duct a lot of the turbulence in the wheel wells out the back. So there's all this ducting and stuff back there. It has a full belly pan and a diffuser. So originally the plan was to have a blown diffuser, right? And dump the exhaust, come over the rear axle, down alongside the gas tank, and then blow out where the diffuser was. We just couldn't route it. We were looking at it. We kept trying to go over, we're trying to go over the rear axle, and every time we try to go back down, we can't. And I was like, what if we don't? What if we just
keep going up?
What if we just keep going up? So the exhaust comes up through there. Shelby makes an aluminum block FE. So this is a 526 cubic inch FE engine, and it's carbureted It makes just over 700 horsepower on pump gas. Which is great for this car. The thing that's cool is that it has so much torque.
What was the inspiration for the paint job?
In the concept phase, I kept trying to go with bright colors because the car is so wild that I wanted a paint job to match.
Yeah.
The challenge with that, the car is so big that if you do it all in yellow or all in red, it's like a lot.
It's like a billboard, right? It's massive.
So I kept going with like these gray colors or these white colors, but that in and of itself wasn't, it's on a full race chassis, it's 700 horsepower, like the car is really wild. So I was having a hard time with like a muted paint scheme.
Sure.
My buddy Tom, we were talking about the taillights, how the taillights are like Jetson kind of 60s, like turbine looking. So I started looking at jets and started looking at like fighter jets, camouflage.
Okay. Now I can see it.
And then because I was searching for military camouflage, I found they painted some battleships. And I think it was the USS Alabama at one time was painted gray and white. And it's these diagonal camouflage, like diagonal stripes all the way down this huge battleship. And I was like, oh man, and I kind of mocked it up in Photoshop, and I was like, I think that's the thing that we're gonna do.
Touring the shop and looking at the cars, it made me wonder, the amount of work involved, the planning, the paint jobs, all the fab work, how do you put a value on that? And that's not the kind of car that you just call a normal insurance company up and get a quote. We were talking with Chris off camera, and he was telling us that he had that same dilemma and actually went to Hagerty for their collector car insurance, and they were willing to work with him. When your build is that bold, you need coverage that doesn't flinch. That's why Hagerty offers policies tailored for high-performance classics and custom creations, even ones with unconventional powertrains or one-off components. Hagerty's willing to work with you on what is the value of your car, and that includes the construction, the materials, and the time spent even planning the car. A lot of that stuff is hard to put a value on. If your car makes a statement, your coverage should too. Go to Hagerty.com for more information.
The story on this car, this is the first time that we bought a car for an engine. So what happened was I went to SEMA the year Chevrolet introduced this engine at SEMA. And I was like, man, I think everybody did the same thing. What, like 1,000 horsepower with a warranty? Like you gotta be kidding me. So I ordered one. It took 2 years before this one actually showed up. I never got a shipping notification or anything. So this truck just pulls up to the shop.
That's great.
And everyone's like, what'd you get? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't order anything. And the guy's like, it's an engine. We're like, what? And then I was like, oh, really? And so we had no plans for it because it took so long. I just kind of forgot about it. So now we had this 1,000 horsepower 632 with nothing to put it in and no plans for it. So then you start asking yourself, like, what can you put it in, right? It's a tall engine. I've seen it in a Chevelle with a giant hood scoop, and I was like, it won't fit in the front of a muscle car.
It's big.
Then we start talking about trucks. Maybe we could do a C10. Problem with a normal front engine pickup truck is you got zero weight in the back. They can't hook up anyway, and then we're gonna put 1,000 horsepower to it. So Anna, who handles all the businessy stuff, you know, payroll and everything, she was like, what if we put it in the back? And I was like, oh, you know, having built the GT40, I'm familiar with transaxles and stuff, and I was like, man, that would work. And I was like, well, if we're gonna put it in the back of a pickup truck, why don't we put it in the back of an El Camino? Sure. Because that's more muscle car. And again, that's what I grew up on, that's what I love. And we were talking about the exhaust, and obviously, we're doing something a little wild here.
I was asking, I was like, these look like mufflers.
So, well, we were talking about the exhaust, and we were really worried that almost anything that we did out the back, it would look like boat headers, boat exhausts. And I think that's cool, but not really the vibe that we were going for. So we were like, well, now there's this transmission tunnel in the car, traditionally, that would be empty. So what if we ran the exhaust forward instead of backwards? And it's just one of those things where it's like the rear exhaust behind the rear window on the Galaxie. It's like, people don't normally do that, but people don't normally build a mid-engine El Camino either.
No. It's funny how a person who's not fully involved with the project gave you the inspiration to put the engine where it is sitting right now.
There's 2 people that work here now that worked at other shops, other like hot rod shops. But aside from that, the rest of the crew, the people who started the company, never worked for anybody else building cars. So there's not a lot of preconceptions. And coming from computer games, there's a lot of creativity and sort of like do whatever you need to do to solve the problem, you know, regardless of what's been done before.
Yeah.
So I think that we bring a bunch of fresh ideas to the game, hopefully. And we're also trying to make sure that it's not just for show, that it works. Sean Davis from Autotopia LA came to us and said, we're big fans of the shop. They've done a bunch of videos for us, and they were like, we'd love for you guys to build this Fox for us. I graduated in '93, and I remember going to the local Ford dealer. They had 3 Cobras, 2 red ones, 1 black one. And I was just like, that was the car. We like to wide body everything, so the plan here is to widen the fenders. Obviously, everybody that I know is a big fan of Ken Block. He was going to build that Fox body Mustang, the Huna Fox, at some point. I met Ash Thorpe, who designed that. And so when we started designing this car, I was like, man, I really want side pipes. But it's like, he did it first. Even though that car never got built, he did it first. So I called him and I said, hey, man, I really want to do side pipes on this, but I don't want to step on your thing. I want you to be cool with it. And he's like, well, the car never got built. If you guys do it, at least it will live on in some way. So we're doing side pipes on this, but I want to do it a little different. With the Roadster Shop suspension, there's no strut anymore. Which means right here used to be a strut tower. And it's gone. So we were like, well, let's cut out that strut tower and put new metal in, which we did. And then we got this is the Megazilla, the Ford Megazilla engine. With the Holley low-rise intake on it. So we got this set in there, the car sitting on the chassis, engine in here, and there was all this room. So we were like, what if we build the headers up top? I mean, there's no reason that we can't do that. So now we had this space, and if the headers are up high, maybe we could just do the H-pipe across the top. So that's what you see there. But we expect, at the pace we're going right now, we'll finish it next year sometime.
That's great.
Thought it might be fun to kind of show you us going out of our comfort zone, I guess. These are the largest street legal tires in the world. They're 58 inches tall. They weigh like 232 pounds each.
Wow.
I think they're like $6,000 each, like $5,800 or something like that. It's ridiculous. But we had a client approach us. They're a massive like Aliens franchise fan. And they asked us, hey, do you know anyone that would build a full-size working replica of the Alien APC? And I was like, maybe? So
you're talking about Aliens the movie, and then the armored personnel carrier that the soldiers
Sigourney Weaver smashes it into. She blows the transaxle in the end, right? Remember? Coming from video games, especially if you're a sci-fi nerd, if you're a computer game nerd, you know about Aliens. Like it just is a staple. And it's what a lot of modern sci-fi really pulls from that. So for me, it's not really what we do. I told them, I was like, I know we haven't done it before, anything like that, but I think we can do it, and I really want to do it. I don't think you'll find anybody who's more passionate about it than my crew, you know? So they gave us the go-ahead, and we're using, just for ease of use, and we know it works, this is a Silverado L8T that is in the HD 2500. We estimate this is probably going to weigh around 10,000, between 10 and 12,000 pounds. But, you know, the Silverados are meant to tow like 17,000 pounds.
That's a good point.
So even though this makes about 500 horsepower, combined with the 10-speed transmission that they have, and then a whole bunch of gear reduction. So we have a monster truck transaxle that's reverse drive. So this thing will sit backwards in the very back of the APC.
Oh, wow.
And it will go through the transmission forward to a reverse transaxle, then back to a Ford 9-inch.
Wow.
And independent suspension, front and rear.
Yeah.
So let me show you what it looks like on the computer.
All right.
So these guys are building everything in SolidWorks here, and it's all like defined on axes, square. Once we're final with the design, they'll go through, they've trimmed a bunch of the tubes and everything, but basically they'll go through a process where we start stress testing it, trying to twist the chassis, putting weight on it, and it'll start color coding things to where, you know, red is like, this is too much stress on this, right? So then we might have to, we expect to have to go back and address and
reinforce certain areas.
Exactly. And sort of fix weak points and stuff like that. But I think these guys are been having a lot of fun working on this. And so I think it's going to be good for the shop and also show like our versatility, and that we don't care. We'll just try to build anything.
It's easy to look at a car with a crazy paint job and big fender flares and wonder if that's all it's got going for it. Sometimes that's true, but that's definitely not the case here at Ruffian Cars. I was extremely impressed with the level of thought and planning that goes into each car and the high level of skills demonstrated by the people doing the work. How many of you would love a chance to pilot that Galaxie around an autocross course, or rip around your favorite track in the Mustang? Who thinks a mid-engine El Camino is a good idea? Let us know in the comments, and as always, let us know where we should go for the next installment of Behind the Build.